not on.
Here.
Testing tank. Oh, here. Commissioner Markert.
Which
Deputy
personality? He's got three. He's got, yeah.
I'm sorry.
I'm still here. Have not left yet.
Deputy Vice Mayor Long.
Here.
Vice Mayor Cassell.
Here.
Commissioner Burns.
Here.
Mayor Carney.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. If you could all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. You may be seated. Agenda approval. Any additions, subtractions?
Could I pull two items, 6A and 6G?
6A.
Right, that's the meeting minutes, and 6G, which is the consideration of maintenance of traffic plan on Swinton.
I got you. 6G.
Yes.
So we'll make 6A will be 7AA, and we will make 6G 7BB. Other than that,
Nope.
No.
and I need a motion to approve.
Motion to approve?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Great. We have a presentation on the Live Local Act. Anthea? Favorite subject?
Good evening, Anthea Geniotis, Development Services Director for the record, and I thought it was time to do a quick overview of Live Local and update the Commission and also the public on a project that is moving through the system, because part of what Live Local does is it administratively approves development, and it's rather large development, so I want to make sure that you are aware of what's coming in. I don't know why it's not clicking. Hang on. I don't know. I don't know why the thing's not working, but the keyboard, does it need batteries? What do I do? Someone?
You don't have it committed to memory?
Okay, here we go. It's unlocked. Okay. So the Live Local Act is the result of two different Senate bills in the state of Florida. The first bill in 2023, it was refined a little bit in 2024. It is basically a comprehensive state incentive to try to bring affordable housing into the state. Affordable by state statute is defined as no more than 120% of AMI. So it's sort of the city has different levels. We have a moderate level that is 80 to 120, and the state has that as well. There is a series of tax incentives on property. It's a better tax exemption if you target a lower income class, 60 to 80% AMI, and then it's I think 75% reduction if you're at 80 to 120. But the most important thing for everyone to understand here is that the Act basically preempts local land use and zoning regulations, including the approval process for Live Local. So it's a pretty heavy-handed approach from the state. It requires municipalities to authorize multifamily and mixed-use residential development in any area zoned for commercial, industrial, or mixed use, as long as 40% of the units are considered affordable rentals. It's specific that it's rental, not condo. That affordability has to be for a 30-year term, and the units are provided on site. So it's not something you can buy your way out of. We have certain areas in the city where you can. It also requires municipalities to authorize development in the highest density that is allowed in the city anywhere, excepting out if you have a bonus program. So a lot of the city's density is the higher amounts are coupled with incentives to achieve a certain amount of workforce housing is the way that our regulations refer to this level, on site or a different mix that includes different affordabilities. So the second Senate bill clarified ultimately that it's the highest density you have without those incentives. And so in the city of Delray Beach, that's 40 units per acre. It's in the MROC district on South Congress. It also says that you're allowed to build the highest height allowed in the city within a mile of the site, or 3 stories. So you can see this is a very broad bill because 3 stories, I guess in some municipalities, is considered quite tall. Our municipality, I don't think, considers 3 stories to be exceptionally tall. So for the city, it depends on the location because it's within a mile proximity. And then the second Senate bill refined that again to have a little bit more of a transition if you were abutting single family. So we have to look at the site that somebody is bringing in to determine the height. And then floor area ratio, which is a proportion used to kind of handle bulk and mass. And it is saying not just the highest FAR allowed anywhere in the city, but 150% of that. So the highest FAR in the city is in downtown, it's 3.0. So a Live Local project could remain in the administrative approval process up to 4.5, which is not a building, I can't think of a building that's that big here now, but. So some of the issues with Live Local that I believe Mr. Forrest referenced from Ballard that I tend to reach out to him on. This is kind of on my list for the legislative session, specifically that there is no minimum amount for the mixed use requirement. If cities have less than 20% of their land use as commercial or industrial, then you can require that it be mixed use. The problem is the act says mixed use means a minimum of 65% residential, but it doesn't put a metric on the minimum for the commercial. So it could be 99-1, or, like it's really not serving those of us who have small areas that, engender those commercial or industrial uses and the tax base that they bring, an ability to maintain them. So that is a refinement that I would be seeking in the next session, and I would also like historic districts to be clearly accepted out. Until the bills are clear, we work off of interpretations that are made by the city, and that one would be better if it was black and white. We don't have a lot of the city that would fall under, but I do worry a bit about some of the downtown area. So the bill also requires a 20% parking reduction if you are within a half mile of a major transportation hub. That's pretty consistent with state standards that if you were around our Tri-Rail station within a half mile, it's considered a station area. So those projects that could come in there would be entitled to an administrative reduction. All other locations that are not within a half mile of the Tri-Rail station would have to meet all of the other LDRs, including parking, and the only way to receive relief from parking is to come before this board. So that's not something we're going to administratively approve. So if the development complies with all regulations, and you're going to say, well, which regulations? Because zoning's been kind of removed from the mix. The act basically says that you use your city's multifamily zoning district, which is our RM district. So regardless of where one of these projects comes in, it would follow RM in terms of setback, open space, those things. And then RM also includes performance standards for multifamily development, and you would have to follow those too. If you're above a certain number of units, you have to have a playground or a tot lot, things like that. So we do have one project in. It's at 2101 South Congress Avenue. It is currently, it's been through one round of technical advisory review, and it has recently resubmitted with changes responding to those comments. The project is located on a rather large industrial site in the city. It used to have a concrete batch plant. It has office. There is also, interestingly, a large 400+ foot antenna here, and there's also a digital billboard here.
Is this the old hard drive site?
Yes.
Okay.
So The proposal is to, with the resubmittal addressing comments, the number of units dropped. So it's proposing 386 units. Of those, 154 would be required to be workforce. There is a token amount of industrial use in the project, just under 2,000 square feet, to meet the requirement to be mixed use, basically. So this is the site. This is the billboard that right now in the plans is slated to be removed. And this is the antenna and some of the existing buildings on the site. So I'm sorry, the slide is wrong. It's 386, not 68. So I can't stand that, so I'm going to change it. Sorry.
I think it's 186, right?
Yes.
86, yeah.
Right.
So that's going to make me crazy. And now I'm making
Getting
Tom
denser as we
crazy.
look at it.
Yeah.
I know, right? Okay. So it's basically Congress is at the top of the drawing. Here's the antenna. North is facing this way. This is the railroad track. The railroad track is to the bottom of the slide. There is, along South Congress, for example, we require a multi-use path to run along the backs to eventually connect to Tri-Rail. Everybody's sort of doing them in piecemeal, and they'll connect. So this is the antenna. It is supposed to remain. It has basically a clubhouse here, and 5 other buildings that are purely residential. The 2 in the back, which are away from Congress, are taller. And then the ones along the front are 5 stories, and I think these 2 are 6. And there's a 2-story parking deck in the back. The billboard was here, and it has a parking deck over it. And then this is the small amount of industrial use that's here. This project may continue to change. I just thought it was a good time to show you and just give an update on what to expect. So the second submittal reduced the number of units in order to respond to technical advisory comments regarding open space, parking, and other things. It now meets the parking requirement at 386 units. It meets the open space requirement, and it's 5- and 6-story buildings. That's the unit breakdown today. It may change as the project evolves. And so because these projects move through administrative approval, it will not appear as an appealable. Once it's met the requirements, it's approved. We wanted to be sure everyone, keep tabs on Live Local projects. So if you look under the Development Services webpage, there is under the current planning, which is where new buildings are processed, there is a Live Local Act webpage that does give you some basic information as well as links to the Senate bill and to the Florida statutes and a quick summary of sort of what the requirements of Live Local mean for our city. And then there is also a link underneath a picture of the project that's in to the architectural plans and the rendering. So if anybody wants to look through it in any detail, it's available on the website. And unfortunately, like I said, if it meets the standards of the act, then it will be administratively approved, and you won't see it as an appealable. So I just thought I should update you on that. And again, session is starting, so if you don't like people preempting land use and zoning, you should probably talk to Mr. Forrest. So that's it.
Right to legit. Commissioner Burns, any questions?
No questions.
Commissioner
Thank you.
Casal.
Thank you for the
Commissioner Casal.
presentation.
I do. So yes, as we know, Mr. Forrest was here, and I expressed great concerns about that. So I'm wondering if the city as a whole should maybe be sending a letter to the state, because really, I mean, I met with the gentlemen who are doing this project. Lovely gentlemen, local. I mean, we're fortunate in some respects, but we have zero control, and we're being preempted in a state where we are about home rule. This makes no sense. And so I feel as though we as a commission, perhaps as a city, should get the ball rolling and write to the state to explain that this, is not good for our city for a number of reasons, all of which we've discussed. But the fact that our commercial is 9% and our industrial is 2% of our land use on our comp plan, but really not, because we've already depreciated some of our industrial. And when you're talking about a development like this, where you have a requirement to have industrial or MIC, mixed industrial commercial, in the middle of it. What could that be? Maybe a dry cleaner or something. I almost feel like they are going to have a harder time satisfying that than us concerning ourselves with what that looks like. But the whole thing, this project is going forward. I don't think 80 to 120 satisfies the needs of the people that need housing. So I find that, unfortunate, but it's 40% and that's a lot. And there's nothing we can do, but I think as a commission, perhaps we direct the city to send a letter to the state to express our concern. I don't know. It's up to my colleagues, but I don't like this live local at all.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Marker.
Just a quick question. 386 units, how many parking spaces get allocated for something like that?
I don't know that I have the number right in front of me, but they do meet it's based on the size of the unit, whether it's a studio, one bedroom, two bedroom, et cetera.
Yeah.
So previously they were 77 spaces short and in the TAC review. So that's part of why you see, the buildings kind of contracted in and got a little higher. The number of units dropped a bit to balance it. So right now, as proposed, the parking comment has been addressed, but that doesn't, there's others, it may change again. Access in and out of the site is not consistently documented. There's things that are going to change, but I just thought, the second round is a pretty good idea of about the size and scale that we'll be getting.
Yeah, I just bring it up. I've brought this up before. We know we're tight on parking, and I want to make sure that anything we do going forward, that we're taking that into account so that we don't double down on our problem.
Right.
They can only build what they can park.
Yeah, which is okay.
Commissioner Long.
The League of Cities, they took a position against this, I assume, right? They've probably already advocated for it. So
That's a good idea. Actually,
I would think going through League of Cities and their advocacy on this issue is probably the most direct route. But I mean, I've talked to Senator Berman about this at length and others. Like, they filed a glitch bill last year to try and address some of the specific issues. I don't think it went through. It'll happen again. They'll keep attempting to pare it back, but there's a lot of cities that have spoken up about this. We can certainly, add our name to the list, but I think going through the league is probably our best bet, because then it's the equivalent of a class action. We're at least, working with others. But I'd like to see where they're at on it and kind of what they've sent through lately. I know they are lobbying on this front.
I actually looked. They don't have anything up for what they're looking to do in 2025. They just had what they were looking to do in 2024. So there's no indication of where they're going with this. But I would be on board with that, because I think we just have to voice some concerns with the total lack of control that we have. Thank you.
I actually wrote a letter at the time this was being undertaken saying this is an absolute disaster. Having sat on a commission once before where the state preempted the ability to discharge a firearm within city limits, this back in 2011, I saw this as a complete, I looked at the statutes ever tried to see if we get ourselves exempted out. There are some exemptions, but they're so few and far between that I couldn't find any, because in addition to the density issue, which is an issue, and parking, but the traffic along Congress is, and we have the other one going on Germantown, is going to be a very interesting. I can't wait to see the traffic studies that are going to come out when those projects are done as it relates to Atlantic Avenue and Congress, because I would be in favor of writing a letter. I'd be in favor of, it's just, there are some cities, in this past, not with the southern towns didn't really support this. The rest of the state supported it, and it sounds a good idea when you're in Polk County. But when you're in Palm Beach State or Broward, and even Monroe to some extent, we don't have the space. We're built out on what we have, and so to lose a prime industrial spot like that hard drives was a great taxpayer, and but it is what it is. But I would support, if you want to put together some kind of a letter that we can write, not just through the League of Cities. I actually spoke to the Republican side. You were on the Democrat. I tried to complain about this before to no avail. So,
You probably got further than I did.
huh?
You probably got further than I did.
Yeah, they took my call. I don't know that that's very far. So, but anyway, so I would, if you want to have the city write a letter and things, I would be in favor of that. And we can address it to, we have an incoming legislature, they're not gonna look at it in the special set, but maybe in March, there's a chance that somebody could bring it up on our behalf.
So, ladies and gentlemen, given the feedback that's being offered by the City Commission, we'll begin direction perhaps tomorrow to work closely with Matt Forrest to assist us in the letter writing campaign, Florida League of Cities, and the state legislature specifically. So when we have our team meeting tomorrow morning, Ms. Geniotis, Jeff Forrest, of course, will all convene to talk a little bit about specific direction in that regard. But we'll utilize the assistance of Matt Forrest to get us squared away.
And look, they represent a bunch of cities. We are not the only one that's got this issue.
Which is what made me think of the idea
I
just
really
now.
think that I like the League of Cities idea because there's strength in numbers, but there's also strength in being individual cities, trying to address these
Yes, sir.
issues.
And likewise, our principal agent will be Matt Forrest to assist our efforts as outlined. So that will be the direction beginning tomorrow.
Thank you.
Great. Good. Thank you very much. All right, the next item is 5, city managers, comment.
Yes, sir. I have several items, if I may, Mr. Mayor. First of all, the first item was added a few days ago as the city of Delray Beach celebrates the life, legacy, and memory of Vera Farington, who is the founder of the Spady Cultural Heritage Museum. We have a special presentation lined up, so Mr. Mayor, I would ask you to position yourself at the podium.
Right.
And we have a presentation I would like for you to facilitate. It's there, ready for
It's
you
already
to
there?
go?
Okay, I was
Yes,
looking
sir.
for it.
I saw that you were looking at the
I was gonna
dais.
start looking. I had it written down. I had it in my phone. So I was
Right. No, it's there. And of course, I'd like to acknowledge Miss Charlene Farington and other agents of the Spady Cultural Heritage Museum, family members, loved ones, to partake in the recognition. Ladies and gentlemen, if you would please, and Mr. Mayor Thomas Carney.
I'm going to read this, right?
Yes, sir.
I actually read this at Martin Luther King breakfast.
Yes, sir.
And had it signed and ready to go because, as you know, we worked very hard, very quickly to put something together for someone who truly has been a pioneer in the city of Delray.
Yes, sir.
Her founding of the Spady is just a very small part of the contributions that this woman has made to this town. And so I thought it was appropriate that we do this. So what I'd like to do is you've all heard this before. Well, most of you have heard it before. But I'm going to read it to you anyway. This is a recognition in memory of Vera Farington. Vera Farington was born on March 3rd, 1929 in West Palm Beach, Florida, to the parents of Lillian Dames Roll of Exuma, Bahamas, and Reuben Roll of Acklins, Bahamas. She moved to Delray Beach with her mother and sister in 1932 after the death of their father. She attended public schools in Palm Beach County and graduated from George Washington Carver High School in Delray Beach in 1947. She received both her associate degree and her Bachelor of Science degree in homemaking with a minor in science from Tuskegee Institute in Alabama in 1949 and 1958, respectively. During her career, she taught homemaking and life sciences classes at different schools. She served as interim dean of schools, dean of students, and later assistant principal. She received a Master of Education degree from Florida Atlantic University and retired from the Palm Beach County school system as an assistant principal in 1992. She always sought ways to encourage and motivate achievement among youth, especially teenagers. She was a musician at the Church of God, a music director for the junior choir at the Mount Olive Baptist Church, and organized a community girls club, the Y Teens. She was a member of the board of directors of the countywide Planned Parenthood and organized chapters in both Delray and Boca Raton. Mrs. Farington's dream was to preserve the history of the black community in her native Palm Beach County through careful and consistent collecting and archiving so that others could learn and be part of this unique history. She is founder and organizer of the historical organization Expanding and Preserving Our Cultural Heritage, which we know as APOC, which is a nonprofit organization that established the S.D. Spady Cultural Heritage Museum and the West Settlers Historic District. She was a member of Alpha Delta Kappa and Zeta Phi Beta sororities and was active in community, city, county, and national affairs. And on behalf of the Delray Beach City Commission, we thank Mrs. Farington for her dedicated community service and commitment to excellence. Good to see you.
Thank you so much. Can you turn this right here, picture?
Huh?
Can
Well, we're going to take a picture. I don't want to ruin the picture by being in it, but I. Nope. Turn the plaque around so they can see it. Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you for all your mother did. Charlene, here are a couple extra copies. Better than the one I gave you the other day. They're out there, not all my stuff all over.
Thank you. I really appreciate this.
Hi, Charlene.
Truly our pleasure. Now, Mr. City Manager?
Thank you. The second item, if I may, Mr. Mayor, ladies and gentlemen, is I'd like to offer a brief introduction of Ms. Jerry Pryor, newly selected Director of Neighborhood and Community Services for the City of Delray Beach. She comes to Delray Beach from the City of Fort Lauderdale, where she's had an extensive tenure covering a number of progressively responsible positions, notably for us, leadership roles in its Code Enforcement Division, Department of Housing and Community Development, as well as neighbor support units in that particular organization. She also has some other experiences that do come to mind that I did not highlight in the information letter report of January 10th when I first made the introduction. It turns out that before embarking on her fairly involved career with the City of Fort Lauderdale, she had enjoyed some law enforcement experiences as a reserve officer back in her native Oregon prior to making a transition a long time ago, and not too long ago. I don't mean to date you.
It's all right.
Not at all. You're still youthful. Ways to go. So in any event, given her illustrious experiences in Fort Lauderdale, specifically the areas in which I just highlighted, we thought that she would be a great addition to serve in this capacity and to assist us in getting to this place. Her educational background includes an undergraduate degree in Public Management and Administration from Florida Atlantic University, as well as a Master of Science degree in Leadership from Nova Southeastern University. As today is her first day of service, having participated with me in the initial new employee orientation first thing this morning, as well as other follow-up visits and engagements with her staff in the Department of Neighborhood and Community Services, I thought it would be appropriate and fitting for her to offer a few words of hello to the City Commission with the hope that you will appropriately welcome and support her as well. Ms. Jerry Pryor, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Moore, Mr. City Manager, Mayor, Commissioners, City Clerk, and City Attorney, and Mr. Jeff Forrest. Thank you for this opportunity. It's really an honor and a privilege to be able to come in and work in this great city of Delray Beach. So thank you for that introduction. I have a huge, more colorful background that anytime anybody wants to have coffee, I'm willing to share that. So thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Welcome. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
I would just say that I had a lovely conversation with Ms. Pryor in the hallway, and welcome, and I wish you the best. You have a tough job, but we're here to support you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. The
Next
next,
item, 5.83, small nonprofit.
yes. So the remaining two items will be fairly brief. However, they were based on direction we've committed to offering so that we can get squared away in this regard. The small nonprofit special events waiver considerations to that effect. Mr. Orris, you have a fairly brief slide presentation, and I think we'll be all set in this regard.
Yes, Jeff Orris, Assistant City Manager. This is an item that we briefly talked about at a previous meeting, and there was consensus for me to bring something forward to you. The purpose of this really is to allow the City Commission to grant waivers of the cost of soft costs, city soft costs, for small special events produced by local nonprofits. The waiver would cover the second 50% of costs that are not covered by our automatic a waiver that's in the special event policy. Neither one of these would be applicable, neither the automatic that's there nor this additional 50 will be applicable to hard costs to the city. If we're renting equipment or bringing in barricades, and that's a direct cost to us, we will pass that along. It will not be part of any waiver of any funds. It's proposed that the second 50% be limited to $2,000 per event. So it would be an event whose total city soft costs are $4,000. Just to qualify, those nonprofit event producers should meet our full qualifications as a nonprofit entity as defined in the special event policy now, plus be based in the city of Delray Beach, not a chapter of a larger organization, but the organization itself is based here. And the majority of event beneficiaries or attendees should be Delray Beach residents. This means it's not to do a fundraiser, it's to provide a service. I think one of the examples we used last time was the Miracle League. We would make sure that the folks who are attending, their participants are a majority of Delray Beach residents. They'd have to be based in the city, and then we would cover some of that additional costs over and above hard costs. The total cost of the city, hard and soft costs, should be no more than $5,000 per event. I will tell you the reason that I propose this is just I want to make sure we're not funding runs and walks at the beach, which get quite large, but don't necessarily have a large labor component to it from the city. So I wanted to make sure they weren't those gigantic events. They really are small, more neighborhood events in character. The process would be that they would submit a request at the time of their special event application. The request would not be addressed by CTAC, only the particulars of the event would be addressed there, but it would be passed along to the DSMG for review. Staff would have looked to make sure that this is a qualifying entity, bring it forward to them. DSMG would make a recommendation to the commission. We would put it on the next available commission agenda for your final determination. Just some other thoughts for budget purposes. You may wish to establish a certain amount of money each year you would want to do this. So we don't have an open-ended, we don't know how much this is going to be. To give you an idea of what that would have meant for FY 23-24, there were about 5 events that might have come to this. They would have totaled about $9,720 to the city. There are some much smaller events that came forward already this fiscal year that would have been $600-700. And it's again, the city may also wish to limit the number of events per nonprofit producer. So we don't have somebody doing 10 events and eating up all the money.
I want to follow up on what you just said, because part of the discussion also was creating a ceiling for the total amount that they could get. And I don't know, is there a reason why you didn't do that? I mean, you just said, maybe we want to do it. I thought that was part of our discussion. I think we threw around, I forgot what the number was, 6,000 or 8,000, whatever the number was, on the maximum a not-for-profit could get, and that would include, whatever, in terms of city subsidies,
Right.
of not to exceed 8,000 for a calendar year. So, or fiscal year, however you want to organize it.
And I think
But-
what I wanted to make sure the commission had discussion, because if we're talking up to 2,000, you're talking 4 events. Is that the number you want? I kind of wanted to ask the commission, is that really where you want to go? You want to keep it lower? You want to make it the number of events? So I think there's a larger discussion there.
I mean, my view, I looked at the total number, because you want someone to have an event and you want it to be successful, but you don't want to say, look, we're going to be able to do an event every month for every other month and go forward and take advantage of this. The whole point was we wanted some kind of a ceiling.
Right.
No, I mean, I'm happy to discuss with everyone about whether that is a number in terms of the number of events. I was more concerned with the ceiling than I was, I confess, than the total number of events. Although the total number of events impact parking, neighborhoods, fields, they impact things. So that's also relevant. But I mean,
Well, I remember talking about the ceiling. However, were we referring to the small events when we were discussing that, or was that for the regular events policy? And have we defined what small means? What is a small event?
I think it's kind of there in the definition of the size and cost of the event is kind of the way we said it, as well as the limitations of the event can't have city costs exceeding $5,000. I think where the real limitation will end up being will be that it has to serve a majority of city residents.
Right.
And it's service to the residents, not collection of money for the nonprofit.
Right.
And Mayor, if I may, because
Yes,
I was
please,
trying
go
to get contact Mr. Orris today to get the same definition, small. What's a small event? Is it a small nonprofit? It doesn't mean a small nonprofit like a one-person operation. It means a small event.
Yeah.
And so it's different because it could be a big nonprofit and a small event. So I do think we need to figure this out.
yeah, I'd like to drill down, because I think the bigger not-for-profits get a lot of benefits to start with.
I think
And if we're trying to encourage some of these smaller not-for-profits,
I would share with the commission, I don't think we've had a lot of small events by large nonprofits. Larger nonprofits also tend to be based outside the city. Their events also tend to be more fundraisers for them or bigger events. They're not there to specifically cater to city residents.
And wouldn't we have the ability to, it would come before us each time, so it's not going to be administratively approved anyway.
Would
So
it
if it's a
come
big
before us each time?
nonprofit coming in, we would have the ability to be like, you don't need this money. We're not going to approve it, right? I mean, to me, what would make sense here would be, the $2,000 maximum per event, but then maybe say this nonprofit can only use up to $5,000 this year total. And we don't care how many events you do, because some of the events they do might not need city resources, right? I don't want to limit how many events they're going to do, but like, just say your amount you can use of this budget is $5,000 for the year, max $2,000 per event, something like that. To me would make sense. And then we're going to get to condition it when they come in and be like, this doesn't work, whatever. I think it's crucial that we approve each one of them.
I want to follow up that for the record, because, you were just asked, so each one of these, we will have to approve them for the record.
Yeah. Each one will go through DSMG for a recommendation, which I expect they would vet, making sure that this meets the guidelines of a nonprofit, and then all of them will come to the commission for approval. Each
Can we
one
do that by
individually.
a consensus? Do we have to have them come to the meetings? It's awkward. I've said this to you before. When you're looking at the big picture, it's awkward to decline somebody who comes in with a nonprofit, sits here in front of us. It puts pressure on us, undue pressure. I feel like we do need to have a conversation about this and know where we're going. If we're all going in the same place and we want to have these events and do this for the city, let's just do it, and let's let you approve it. We don't need to approve it. And if we don't want to have it, we don't want to have them coming in front of us and putting us in the awkward position of having to say no, because it's awkward. So I think we need a policy.
Or not, I would expect, if we go with not having individual approvals, I would expect
consensus.
that we would have a report,
Yeah.
in our materials about each month or whatever it is, each quarter, how many of it was used, and if we want to talk about having a ceiling, and as long as they fall under certain things, and we get reported, would that satisfy? Instead of having to come each time, because it can get awkward.
Lots of things we do up here are awkward. That doesn't bother me. But I think a nonprofit should get to pitch their case if they're trying to get our approval. And listen, I'm usually a proponent of doing things ministerially,
At a workshop.
like 9
We do
out
all
of 10
workshops.
times I'm like, let city staff do it. So let's work for us. But I don't know. I think of a small nonprofit is trying to advocate to get a chunk of their money forgiven by the city. I think they deserve a chance to plead their case, even if we keep it quick.
But I think if it's $2,000 and we get a list, we can all approve it without it even having to come here. So it's just like we say, okay, yeah, then an email comes out. Do you all approve this? It's $2,000 for this organization. Lynn is saying, no, we cannot do that. Sorry.
No,
City attorney, I apologize.
Part of the benefit of what you're saying is that at least it gets the commission to know who all the not-for-profits are and stuff that they're doing, which isn't a bad.
No, you're right.
Which isn't
And
a
there's
bad
not
thing.
that many of them, right? This isn't like we're going to have one of these at every meeting. I feel we're going to have a handful a
All
year,
right, so would they come in front of us on a case-by-case basis like they're already doing now and nothing changes? Is that what we're saying?
Yes.
Okay, fine.
But except that we are going to now have a ceiling
We have a ceiling,
that we're going to be dealing with.
$8,000.
Whether- You said 5, I've said 8, you said 8.
I don't care. I'm fine with 8. I don't care.
If I may ask a question, are you saying we would have a ceiling for the larger nonprofits? We gave Muscles on the Beach $8,000, I think. We gave Concourse to Elegance or whatever $8,000.
Those would be governed by a completely separate portion
Okay,
of
so
the
then
This is
a
a
policy.
different number. So what's the number? 2,000?
$2,000 per event.
Okay,
The
Not to exceed
recommendation
with
is
an
This is
for
a
you to have a
this is-
fixed amount per year.
right.
Yeah,
So
well,
that
then
also
we're
does
saying
put the
not to
onus on
exceed
them.
8,000 in a year.
Well, I'm saying
Or
overall,
5,
No,
whoever.
when
For-
he's saying
for
for the
budgeting
small,
purposes,
2,000 a
This
year.
is for small events,
I agree.
not for the big ones.
No,
So
no,
the big
I-
ones are 8. He's going max 2,000.
2,000 per year.
so and as
That's
I
fine.
mentioned in
Easy.
FY 23-24, we had 5 events that would have qualified. So what I'm trying to do is also get you to put a ceiling on the overall budget for this grant, so that
Okay.
we don't have 20
So
in
you
one
say-
year
are you saying
and lose
10,000?
control of our budget.
5 events you had last year, 2,000 each, $10,000 is what you want in your budget for that?
I had recommended that we start at 10,000.
Okay.
You all decide whether you give it a little cushion to go to 15, because we may have some newer events coming in when we do this. but
Why don't
to
we do the
cap
10,
it
and
at a
if
certain
something
amount.
else comes up, then something else comes up?
We'll add that to the budget, but
Yeah.
I really like where you're going with this. I think having some governance around this makes all the sense in the world. And I'm okay with the charities coming in and talking to us. I think that's probably healthy
Well,
for us. But
yeah.
I love the fact that we'll have a document so that the playing field is even for everybody.
I can also share with you one of the thoughts I had in saying that the commission caps this overall, this program for a certain amount is it encourages the nonprofits to come in as soon as possible to get their special event permit.
Right, gives us the knowledge.
So, because it'll essentially be first come, first serve.
Got it.
And we do allow them to come in up to 12 months before their event and submit their application. So it helps us to know who's coming in and who's getting what when they come in sooner.
How does a nonprofit know? This is people that have already done it already know, so they'll know to come in. How does everybody else know?
Well, it'll certainly be in our policy. Our policy is published on our website. The special events administrator certainly will know what's going on and be able to advise people when they come in when they realize the size of their event.
okay, so that's right. Do we have consensus now?
Yeah.
on right?
Yeah.
We have
Thank you.
consensus.
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
If you
Jeff.
don't wanna-
Good job, Jeff.
If you don't want to individually review them, I'll support that if we go back to 6 o'clock.
I feel like that's an
Hard pass.
improper trade.
It's a hard pass, you people, I'm telling you.
Thank you, Ms. Doris. The final update from the Office of the City Manager is considerations regarding grant policy formation and administration. So what's in store this evening is an abbreviated presentation that was first initiated back in November by Education and External Opportunities Manager Janai Bowens. We previously contemplated this as a follow-up workshop meeting discussion, which was to take place last week. However, because of other matters, we decided to cancel that meeting, and simply this item is being brought forth at this time. So briefly, Ms. Owens, you have a presentation to outline for the City Commission and the public, quite frankly, what the considerations are with regards to policy formation and administration pertaining to grants for the City of Delray Beach or being provided by the City of Delray Beach. Please.
Good evening, Janai Bowens, Education and External Opportunities Manager. I will be providing a brief presentation regarding our considerations for how we distribute funding from the City of Delray Beach. So the purpose of this presentation is I'm going to take you over our current external grants policy that we have in place, as well as any discussion regarding future opportunities to revise an internal grants process within the city. So our current external grant policy really establishes departmental guidelines on how we utilize and allocate federal, state, and local grant opportunities. It also defines the responsibility of grant administration within each city department. Our current external grant policy does not apply to yearly recurring city grants, particularly those within our Neighborhood and Community Services Division, which includes the Community Development Block Grant, our State Housing Initiative Partnership Grant, and our Urban Development Action Grant, all of which are aligned to specific federal allocations and grants management policies. So our current external policy really outlines the responsibility of each city department and how we manage and utilize that process. Our internal departments are responsible for identifying and applying for our funding opportunities. We currently work with lobbyists within each city department to determine grant opportunities and go through with the funding application. Also, our departments are responsible for organizing internal teams to prepare and submit the grant application. This, of course, goes through a city manager's approval, and if it's a multi-year funding opportunity, it does require the city commission approval. As well as within that policy, it states that we must coordinate with the city attorney and finance department to maintain grant expectations as outlined in the grant agreement. Our initiating city departments work in tandem with the finance department in terms of our grants management and monitoring. So each city department is responsible, of course, for compiling the documents as it relates to programming and activities, progress reports and status reports, and they provide those documents to the finance department, which is the housing of all of those documents. And then they, of course, are responsible for monitoring the grant agreements and the reporting, as well as providing technical assistance to the initiating departments. Our current external grant opportunities, so these are the grants that
we receive as a city. For the finance department, the majority of those active grants are ARPA funds and from the CARES Act. Then we have the fire rescue department, which provides the majority of that funding is for fire equipment. Neighborhood and community services, the majority of those funding dollars are from HUD. Parks and recreation, the majority of that funding is from the Department of Environmental Protection, which particularly goes through our improvements for Pompey Park. Our police department, the majority of those fundings are related to programming and initiatives. And then public works, the majority of that funding goes towards infrastructure. Now, many of the grants and the allocations that we see here are currently either in the closeout process. So a lot of the allocations that we see here in terms of the dollar amount will change or may change. So that brings us to discussion for our internal grants administration policy. There's opportunity to create how we deliver funding from the city. So the funding policy that I was talking about previously is what we receive, how we receive our dollars. So in terms of how we are allocating the money that comes from the city, there is opportunity in order to craft and create a policy that will guide each individual department. So currently we do go by a particular process or strategic process when we are allocating these funds. And so we're seeking a formal internal grant policy. Our current grants policy for when we deliver and design, how we're going to provide funding to the community, it includes having each city department engage our community to assess how we're going to best utilize the funds and identifying populations that meet the eligibility criteria. We also collaborate amongst staff and legal to create grant application processes. Each city department develops an internal application review team to score and review submitted applications, and then the awards are allocated to the individuals, and our departments are responsible for monitoring grant compliance and reporting. So when we discuss internal grant administration policy considerations, it's important for us to consider the funding sources that we have within the city. So currently our major funding sources for grants are the Karen and opioid settlements. We have the CDBG SHIP and UDAT grants, which are federal allocations under HUD dollars. So they go and they abide by a separate federal, policy. And then we have how we maintain our nonprofit multi-year funding opportunities. So the organizations that benefit from our multi-year funding opportunities include Delray Beach Library, Sandaway House Nature Center, Delray Beach Historic Society, Spady Cultural Museum, Boys and Girls Club of Palm Beach County, and the Achievement Center for Children and Families. Within the city manager's department, that's where all those individual multi-year grant opportunities are housed. And right now we are providing $1,513,431 in active grants. For the Neighborhood and Community Services Department, they are currently allocating $322,244.09. So here are the agencies that receive funding from the city of Delray Beach in terms of our internal grantees. So for the city manager's office, we do have the education grant, which provides grant funding for 6 out of our 8 schools. We have funding for after school and summer programming for the Achievement Center for Children and Families. We have our funding for Delray Beach Historic Society, Sandaway, the library, Boys and Girls Club of Palm Beach County, and Spady Cultural Heritage Museum. The Neighborhood and Community Services Department currently provides funding or is in the process of a closeout function for Legal Aid Society of Palm Beach County, KOP Mentoring Network, Urban League of Palm Beach County, Achievement Centers for Children and Family, Affordably Lavish Foundation, Boys and Girls Club, Delray Beach Community Development Corporation, Eat Better, Live Better, and Milagro Foundation. So when we think of opportunities for how we can structure an internal grants process, one would be the grant planning and decision making during budget development. So really talking about how much money we allocate to these individual entities during the budget making process to see if it is still feasible, what can be changed and what can stay the same. also creating a transparent grant repository for competitive opportunities. So in thinking about how we engage with the community and we convey or communicate these grant opportunities, it's best to have one house where we can deliver that information. Another opportunity is a streamlined grants management system for all city departments. From my understanding, each department utilizes their own grants management system, whether it's Excel, whether it's our Tyler system, our New World system, etc. As well as probably creating a grants committee to determine eligibility and requirements for upcoming City of Delray Beach grant opportunities. Right now, we are in conversation about how to reach our communities in terms of communicating these opportunities. So the city does seek to develop a strategic plan for communicating local, federal, and state grant opportunities to external partners. We're looking forward to using diverse communication channels to maximize access. So that can include, if we do come across a grant opportunity, really conveying it through our social media campaigns, newsletters, and City of Delray Beach web pages. Also actively collaborating with local nonprofits and businesses to disseminate information regarding current opportunities and funding cycles, even considering providing grant assistance and application support if it is a city-supported grant opportunity. So if we are providing the grant, we can definitely do our due diligence to connect with outside entities in order to provide them support during the grant application process. And finally, connecting residents with local grant writing events and workshops to support equitable application opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Burns.
Yes, thank you. I've been looking forward to having some sort of policy for the grants and distribution. I have a, what source of funding does this, let's see, the one that you just put up, Orchard View, no, not that one. The Legal Aid Society, Knights of Pythagoras, Urban League, what's the source of funding for these organizations?
That funding is housed in the Neighborhood and Community Services Division. One
Is
second,
that the
I have the
UDAG
information
funds?
available. I believe it is the CDBG funds.
Correct.
Okay. All right, and so there is plans to have a system where the compliance and reporting, and you'll be able to provide a report to say where these funds are, who has them, what stage they're in, and all of that.
Yes. And so I'm looking for a direction and input from the commission regarding what you all would like to be within that policy and how we house that funding in terms of the money that we have, the money that we're allocating to these outside entities.
With the exception of the Caring Foundation and the opioid funds, the rest of these funds are ongoing.
Yes.
So do we have a grant writer?
We don't.
We don't?
No.
Okay. All right. I think we need a grant writer.
Majority,
All right.
yes, majority of the grants within the city, especially if we're applying for it, it is done through each initiating department. So
Right.
staff takes care of the grants.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, I
Commissioner
think
Gasol?
No, I was just going to say that. I mean, Ms. Barletto has gotten us millions upon millions upon millions of dollars with her plans that she produces for us. So we have grant writing going on in individual departments on an as available or as needed basis. We keep on coming back to this same question, and I don't know why we can't come to some policy and process for you, and I'm sorry, but I definitely think how the grants are being housed department to department currently is making sense, but for those which you presented on the screen. I do think, so it's interesting because you see the Achievement Center is getting money directly from the city. The Achievement Center is getting money from Neighborhood and Community Services, and through the various non-profit events that we're sponsoring, the Achievement Center is getting money. We don't really have a good handle on how much money is going. And I love the Achievement Center, so I'm not complaining about it. I'm just saying I agree that consolidating some of these nonprofit, at least so that we have an idea of what exactly the money is. Also, I don't think the Arts Garage was up there, and I don't know if you just didn't consider it in that category, which is fine. But what are you looking for us in terms of direction? Can you go back to, there was a slide.
So what I'm looking for is right now we have an external grants policy. So we have how we are supposed to monitor and attend to compliance for any money that we receive.
Right.
Currently, we're just following processes with our internal grants, so the grants that we provide. So what I'm seeking is direction on how to move forward with crafting an internal grants policy that all city departments can, abide by when we are providing money to the community.
Yes? Commissioner Marker?
Yeah, I just wanted to say over the past year, I've gotten into the grant world quite a bit with my other job with the FBI. And I was naive coming into it, thinking anybody could write a grant and it's a piece of cake, and it's quite the opposite. It's hard to find the grants. It's really hard to write the grant documents, and the selection process can be kind of wonky. So I love the fact that we're going to hopefully add a grant writer into the mix if we can, because particularly for a smaller not-for-profit company, they're not going to have the ability to do this, and we'll be missing out on available money.
We need one. We don't. They're not.
Yeah, but I'll tell you, for those of you who've never worked in the grant world, it's really complicated. I was shocked.
Missy is our grant writer.
Yeah,
Commissioner
Missy.
Long, are you finished, Mr. Marker?
I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you.
You are good. I agree with you. Darn good.
I certainly wouldn't oppose adding a grant writer if we had the budget for it, but no, it's just great presentation overall, Ms. Bowens. I don't have anything to add at this point, frankly.
Usually, I'm
think
going to
our
jump
city
in because,
manager
I mean,
was looking
I
at
have seen in a variety of organizations, because I have also worked with not-for-profits, that grant writers are very, very useful. I mean, I know Missy's done a wonderful job, and my gosh, she spends a lot of time doing it, but the issue would be, could the city's personnel be better utilized in doing what they're doing and having assist someone in doing a grant writing? Because, I know the budget is an issue, but my experience, and look, it may be an imperfect science, but usually a grant writer should be paying for themselves. I mean, the key to grant writers, they know there's a lot of stuff underneath stones that we don't even know about that they would know about because they represent more than one organization. So I would, I think the city manager, and in connection with your office and all the departments that look for money, should try to find a consolidating source that could help with the grant writing, because
Could I ask Missy a question? Do you mind, Missy? I apologize. Thank you.
you have to get up and-
She's gotten enough grants to pay for her department for eternity. We appreciate you. What I was wondering is this.
I think you realize
This is separate from when you're. Can I just ask her one question, please? If you don't mind.
we had a grant writer.
We all would agree with a grant writer, but I guess my question is, are you writing strictly within your department, or, which departments are you typically writing for? Because we don't want to take, she's doing such a great job. I don't want her to stop doing what she's doing.
That is not the direction.
No, I'm asking her though, which departments are you writing for all departments currently?
No.
No.
Right.
I am
yours.
only writing for my department
Okay.
and what we need to complete capital projects.
That's what I thought.
But you were also
Specifically.
involved in that in the county, right? When you were doing it in the county.
At the Water Management
Yeah,
District.
so I mean,
I've
you have experience as a grant writer, is my point.
not necessarily as a grant
Not
writer, but
specialized.
as
You're
a,
doing great, but I
as
mean,
a grant procurer. So there's a lot to grant writing that goes beyond just writing the grant. You also have to have the connections with the agencies to get your grant moved up to the top of the list. So there's a lot of lobbying. There's a lot of relationship building that goes
Right.
into getting the kinds of grants that we've been successful at getting.
That's all you.
what I'm saying is I would rather you spend your time on the lobbying side than actually the handwriting of the grant side.
But
oh,
she's
believe
gonna
me, I do. I have every member
No, I know you
of
do.
my
I know you
staff
do. It takes
writes
up a lot of your time,
grants.
is my point.
But we're not looking for grant writing in her area.
No,
we're
but we have
talking
to-
about stuff that helps the nonprofit. So when we're discussing that, the question is, I don't know that. Go ahead, Mr.
No,
Moore.
please,
No,
continue.
I just don't know. Do we want to put somebody on the staff to be? And I want to say this delicately. Working for the nonprofits, or should we? There should be some way for the nonprofits to. At one point, I think Spady came in and wanted money, and we gave specific money towards grant writing. But for us to be hiring a staff person, if they're not grant writing for our residents in-house, then I that's not something that I'm necessarily interested in engaging in. I'm sorry.
Could I add though, because there's grants that the city applies for too,
Right.
like federal grants and stuff. I
And
just
I'm
talked
all
to
for
Missy.
that. Right. They're two
Yeah.
separate
They're two
things.
different dialogues.
That's what I'm trying to understand, what we're trying to get to here, because this is more about engaging with the nonprofits. And I'm saying if that is what you're asking about, I would probably say taxpayers, it's not their responsibility to be.
I'm more talking about
Okay, well, we need
city
to be clear on what we're talking
projects.
about.
If I may, ladies
But
and
that's not
gentlemen.
what this presentation is about. This is about nonprofit
We're
engagement.
conflating two different.
So
Right.
they're two different topics.
Thank you, someone, please.
I was about to, but
Yes, Ms. Jelly.
Harris has been trying to break in for like 10 minutes.
So there's two different issues, right? The grants that we apply to
Right.
for the federal, state, those are the ones that you're saying you would like to have
Yes.
a grant writer for.
Correct.
What
Right.
Ms. Bowens is talking about are the grants that we distribute.
Yes.
So, there are a lot of nonprofits that are smaller, and so I don't think it's beyond, our abilities that if we wanted to do some type of public outreach and maybe do a quick workshop or something to assist them. I know purchasing department had done that in the past to help smaller businesses apply for city bids, and I think that's what Ms. Bowens was talking about. But they're two separate issues. Like we
Yeah,
would
I was
not
talking
hire a
about
grant.
I was talking about the other because
No, I understand.
I agree that it really is the responsibility of the city to raise money for the
for ourselves, for the,
Yeah.
for
for
the
the
grants that we
not-for-profits.
need.
Right.
And I totally agree.
Thank you.
So, ladies and gentlemen, if I may, so given the two subjects, if you will, any considerations regarding resources for grant writing purposes and all that, that will be a function of the proposed budget process for 2025-2026, of which I'm working closely with Chief Financial Officer Henry Dakowitz to develop a calendar so that we can advance the timeline in that regard. I hope to have a note to you all by the end of next week in terms of what that may look like. Number one. So I would like to ask you all to maintain a focus in that regard because the city of Delray Beach does an incredible job above and beyond just the Department of Public Works with respect to securing outside resources. Delray Beach is a community development block grant entitlement community, which means we receive federal allocations from the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development annually, which actually goes to support some of the administrative operations and staff resources necessary to make that work. Above and beyond that, the issue at hand or the question at hand is my interest in working closely with all concerned to maybe bring back a couple policy considerations regarding the internal piece so that y'all can be squared away. That can be formulated based on the input and feedback you all provided this evening so that we can bring back a couple options in terms of what that looks like.
Could I just add something to this conversation? If we're not expanding what we're giving out in terms of grants, then there's no point in us trying to encourage people to come in and look for the money because then we're just turning them away. And that would be remarkably unfortunate. I do think, however, your idea is a good one. And maybe we could partner with the library to do a small, presentation on how you can write a grant, what we have to offer for the nonprofits. Maybe I'll work with you on that and the library. We can do something maybe twice a year or maybe once a year before it's budget time. But we need to really nail down what we're willing to give them and for what purpose. Because there's no point to this conversation if we're saying, hey, we're pulling back nonprofit funding and we're not giving to them, there's no point in having this conversation.
Correct.
So,
and that would be part of the balance to strike in this regard because, quite frankly, ladies and gentlemen, it is not anticipated that additional resources will become available to support the point you just made, Vice Mayor. However, it's appropriate that we have a cogent, structured internal policy in terms of how this works, and that's the purpose of this dialogue so that we can get to a place of organization and be able to go from there. So that approach, number one. Number two, in terms of any resources and creative ways to expand our ability to secure funding from the outside is another discussion. I'd like to yield to the proposed budget process, which will be here soon enough to address that particular consideration. Nevertheless, for the internal management piece, as well as to connect the dots with whatever partnerships that might become available, that would be fine as well.
Do you feel like you got what you needed out of this conversation?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I wasn't sure, sorry.
So with that, Mr. Mayor, ladies and gentlemen, unless there's further thoughts, questions, or concerns, I think we're all set in that regard. So
Thank you.
we look forward to getting that squared away in terms of the internal piece. Any other considerations regarding staffing, resources, et cetera, will become a function of the proposed budget process for fiscal year 2025-2026.
Thank you. All right, the meeting is now open for public comment. To anyone wishing to speak on any topic or agenda item other than quasi-judicial items and public hearing items. Public will have an opportunity to speak on quasi-judicial and public hearing items later in the meeting as those agenda items are called. For public comment, please sign in, state your name and address for the record. You will each have 3 minutes.
Montre Bennett, 323 Northwest 2nd Avenue, Dare Beach, Florida, 33444. I like the discussion about y'all nonprofits, but y'all need to set money aside for nonprofits who, on a historical level, Black history is something that's really deeply rooted in Dare Beach. And the city of Dare Beach really need to fund Black history initiatives. Roots Culture Festival, one. The MLK Walk could be much better, and it could be much greater if the city get behind it in a true fashion. Thank you, Jeff Orrs, for what you done this past weekend. Thank you, City Manager Moore, for walking in the walk. Despite the weather, my ancestors went through hell and high waters back in their day when they didn't have buses, when they walked 3, 4, 5, 6 miles to get to schools. So water shouldn't stop nobody from coming out and doing what's giving the justice due to the ancestors that they deserve. It's always time to do right. Dr. King said it, and the time is now. It's never stopped. Thank you, Stevie Wonder. Thank you for everybody who put in the hard work, the dedication and sacrifice for America, for the people, home of the brave, home of the free. But sometimes it don't seem so free. But when you want to stand up and be brave, sometimes you get so scared you don't want to do it, because what? They killed all my ancestors with a bullet. But y'all killing us through policies, and the policies need to reflect for the people. And that's all I'm going to say. Although I got a minute left, the policies need to reflect the people, not color. The policy need to reflect all of humanity. Peace is needed in America. Peace is needed here in Dare Beach. Peace is needed. Love is needed. And we got to truly be love and not just be spreading hate. We got to stop being divisive in all these ways. It's nonprofits on this list that be getting money, but I don't hear about some of them. It's nonprofits on that list that I don't even know who they are. But some of them, I know what they do. They do good work. But y'all got to fund people who doing things, especially about this history. We can't keep keeping the history in the back. Thank you to my neighbor, Miss Vera Farington. My whole life, she's been my neighbor across the street. And she did her due justice, and she did a job well. I'm complete.
Thank you very much. And by the way, your reference to Stevie Wonder was very interesting, because at the Martin Luther Day breakfast, we had a speaker who actually was brilliant, very well known, Harvard law grad, and etc. A cousin of Yvonne Odoms, which we learned,
Really?
talked about that the Martin Luther King holiday really came about because Stevie Wonder put up the $2 million to open up the office in Washington, D.C. to start the lobbying effort. It took him some years to get it done. And I was remarkable, because I never knew Mr. Wonder's involvement in that holiday. And so I think it's important that gets shared. Anyway, please continue, Mr. Long.
Oh, okay. George Long, 46 North Swinton. I had a couple of questions. I know you can't talk. We don't interact, but somebody could give me a sign. Next time you talk about the Karen Foundation, will you please explain how they're giving us a grant, the city? 'Cause I've done some research, and this last thing I saw, they were suing us. So just mention why, if you don't mind. Second thing, I'm doing a little bit of research, and I've been looking up transfer of developmental rights, and I actually understand it. It's very similar to a cap and trade for carbon credits and stuff like that. But I'm under the assumption that it has never been applied in Delray Beach. I'm sure of that. If somebody could confirm that, I would be happy. Also, Vera Farington, I think it was actually 30 years ago, she gave a talk over for the CRA. I think it was only one building over there then. And I had no idea how much I didn't know until I heard her. My gosh. And I guess that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Long. Next.
Jim Knight, 85 Southeast 4th Ave, and my home residence is 740 Havana Drive in Boca Raton. I wanted to bring up your comments about the Live Local Act. And I think a lot of people don't really understand what it means. It means live local, right? So you all have to live here in the city, right? Because to get elected, you got to live here. I bet if we took a look and looked at the workforce housing and some of the issues that we have out there, we passed a $200 million bond issue because we got a problem with it, right? I would be shocked if you looked at our first responders and teachers and so forth here in Delray Beach, if any more than 15% lived locally in the city of Delray Beach. And I think it would be very helpful for the city to take a little bit of time and look at your fire department, police department, city employees, and find out where they really live and where they're commuting from. I just think it's something that you really need to embrace and understand. I know it feels tough coming down from Tallahassee where they're saying, but they're trying to solve an issue that's out there. I've been involved with the Housing Coalition and so forth for Palm Beach County now for probably about 8 or 10 years. And it's a real need. And it's not going to get better. I mean, $650,000, neither one of my kids own a home yet. And I feel like they do pretty good for themselves. They work pretty hard and make some good money, but they're still out there renting and so forth. And I think we have to, at some point in time, find a way to get a balance to where you could actually have employees living here, especially if there, God forbid, there's some natural disaster like happened out in California, and you got to have all hands on deck, and you got people commuting from Port St. Lucie. It's an hour and 15 minutes in good traffic. Throw a little traffic in there, and it's 2 hours. So I thank you for your time, and I just hope you'll consider that when you're thinking about what decision you want to make on the Live Local Act and the workforce housing and so forth that I believe we desperately need. And I think we could go to some of the schools and actually put housing on the schools' properties and things like that, so forth. I did an exchange program with Sano Institute in Japan. They have Toshiba, Murata Machinery, Toyota. Employees all live at the campus where they work and so forth. And I think it's an issue that's going to continue to go on. Hopefully we can take a look into it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Minister Greta Britt, and I am the founder of United Believers of Delray Beach. We are a group of pastors, faith leaders, clergy, and working together to address ills and concerns in our community so that we can have a greater impact in our community. And I heard a couple of presentations that's looking at a way to get information out. All right, y'all can contact me. I can definitely get the information out to the churches. But I have, we are currently 11 churches under United Believers. 4 of them are represented here today. St. Paul AME Church. We have Remy Church. We have Jesus Lounge Ministry. And we have Cathedral of Hope Ministry here. And we just want to say, just want to do a thank you on behalf of United Believers of Delray Beach. I would like to take this moment to express our sincere gratitude for Commissioner Burns' unwavering dedication to our community and her understanding of the important role clergy plays in the community. Your effort in bringing clergy and community together through your annual breakfast is to be commended. Your active engagement and commitment to making a difference has not gone unnoticed, and we are fortunate to have someone like you working so tirelessly on the behalf of everyone. So thank you, we appreciate you, and we look forward to working with all of you. We're here. We definitely want to be able to get information into the hands of our parishioners. So just keep us in mind when you want to get information. Keep us in mind, and we'll definitely get it out. Thank you. I don't know if they have anything to say. You have a few minutes.
I'm Chris Caesar from Remy Nation Church, representing Bishop Anthony S. Mays and Pastor Carla Mays. We would like to thank Commissioner Burns for continuously coming and not just getting elected, but after you've been elected, you've been in the community trying to find out what's our concerns, and we really salute you. We salute all of you for the hard work you do, but she's really been there. How you doing? And I love the fact that she's in there fighting with us tooth and nail. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other members of the public wishing to speak? Have we got, yes?
Andrea Bruton, 703 Place, Tavant in Delray. I have two things today. A reminder to you all that we're about 40 days out from the Let's Move season, and we're excited about getting our city active and moving for a better quality of life and bragging rights. We plan on winning that trophy this year. So just to let you know, Let's Move is an initiative where if you're doing any type of physical activity for 30 minutes or more, you would go on to the PBC, letsmovepbc.org, and log in your minutes. And this is for the entire month of March. And the city with the most minutes at the end of the month wins the competition. It's a countywide competition, and Delray for the last 7 years has either been number 1 or number 2. Wow. So we plan on staying in that position. And secondly, I have, I'm an executive board member of the NAACP South Palm Beach County branch. And we're pleased to announce our first annual Freedom Gala. We'll be recognizing members of communities from Boca Raton to Lake Worth. Our honorees will include our own former Commissioner Dave Randolph and current Commissioner Angela Burns. Just to add to what that group just said, Angela Burns will be recognized as our Woman of the Year. And we're
well done.
Yes,
well
give
done.
it to her. Give it to her. So we invite you out. We invite you out to support the occasion and to support Commissioner Burns, as well as our former Commissioner Dave Randolph. You can purchase tickets on Eventbrite, or you can contact me. My name is on the sign-in sheet. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other members of the, well done, Commissioner Burns. I'm going to wait for comments to congratulate you. Any other comments? Seeing none, public comment is closed. I now need a motion to approve the consent agenda as
So
amended.
moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It is finished. Great. We are now on item 7AA, which is former 6A, which is the minutes of the meeting held on January 7th, 2025.
Right, I reviewed them, and I spoke to our clerk, but I couldn't get her yesterday in time to amend this. But item 8A on the January 7th minutes does not incorporate the vote. There was a vote taken, and it's not listed.
What 8A was?
8A is ordinance, I don't remember, I think something 24. Trust me, I've looked at it twice, it's not there. No, and I showed our clerk as well. It was an oversight, so.
It was the first reading, correct? Or was the second reading?
Yeah, it was the second reading.
And everyone, it was unanimous, I remember.
Correct, it was unanimous, yeah.
Okay, but it should reflect that the vote was unanimous.
That's
Thank
right.
you thank you,
You're welcome.
Commissioner Casal.
Yep.
Is that it on that?
That is it on
Then we need a
that.
motion to approve those minutes.
Motion to approve 7AA
As amended.
as amended.
May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great. All right, now it's for item 6G,
That is correct,
which
thank
is
you.
7BB.
Yep. That's the consideration of maintenance of traffic plan road closure plan for Swinton between Swinton Circle, 16th, 22nd. Missy, I apologize for even making you get off the chair. I was speaking to Missy earlier regarding this, and I asked her if she would object to me pulling it. It's just something we typically do, but go ahead.
No, something else.
Oh, okay, sorry. It's something we typically would just agree to through the consent, however. You good?
I'm with you.
Okay. There were some people from Unity who expressed concerns. I had asked Missy and her department to meet with them about a month ago. We went one morning. You were remarkably accommodating, as was your staff, in explaining to the people at Unity that this project is underway. They had some concerns about traffic. Missy and her staff were able to readjust the whole schedule so that the paving will be done during the summer months when they are out of school. But the members of the school board wanted to be here tonight but could not because they have a meeting with something major on the agenda. But they wanted me to express that their failure to be here does not necessarily mean they're supporting this project, because they have some concerns about how it will impact them. And I said I would do that, and Missy did not object to me doing that. Thank you, Missy. So that's what I did that. So motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? It is approved. Item 7A, resolution amending the fiscal year 2025 budget.
Resolution, oh,
This is going to be, Mr. Dakowitz, you're going to be?
do you want me to read it?
Yes, please read the resolution.
Resolution number 12-25, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Delray Beach, Florida, amending its budget for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2024 by providing for supplemental appropriations in the amounts identified in Exhibit A, repealing all resolutions inconsistent herewith, providing an effective date and further purposes.
Thank you. Mr. Deck.
Thank you. These are budget amendments for this month, one each for the general fund, the recreation impact fee fund, and the general construction fund. In the general fund, we're looking at an increase for the NCS Department Professional Services, and that would be funded by reducing line items in Neighborhood Community Services, line items of other salaries, office supplies, machinery, and equipment. So there's no impact to the budget in total, it's just line item transfers. And the general fund amended budget remains at $187,189,999. The Recreation Impact Fee Fund, a request to amend the budget to purchase new trash cans for the beach and extra picnic tables for the park pavilions. That would cost $132,655, which will increase their other repair and maintenance service line item, and it will come out of the non-operating contingency account within the Recreation Impact Fee Fund for the same amount. Again, no impact, it offsets one another. And the total remaining in the Recreation Impact Fee Fund amended budget is $785,685. In the General Construction Fund, we've obtained revenues from CRA in the amount of $286,127, $224,127 for neighborhood redesign, and $62,000 for Osceola neighborhood improvements, and that will be used for capital outlay, Northwest neighborhood redesign of $224,127, and the Osceola Park neighborhood improvements. So the budget goes up, the revenues go up, and the expenses go up. So the total expenditures are $286,127, and the general construction fund amended budget is now increased by that amount, and originally was $66,763,598.
Thank you.
Respectfully submitted.
Great. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any comments from the commission? Mr. Long? Mr. Marker?
No comment.
Commissioner Burr?
No comment.
Commissioner Casal?
No. Motion to approve. Resolution number 12-25.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. There are no public hearings or second readings tonight, but we do have a first reading. Would you please read the first reading into the record?
Ordinance number 03-25, an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Delray Beach, Florida, amending the land development regulations of the City of Delray Beach Code of Ordinances by amending Chapter 4 zoning regulations, Article 4.3 district regulations, general provisions, Section 4.3.3 special requirements for specific uses by adopting a new subsection PP, private parking lots, providing a conflicts clause, a severability clause, authority to codify, providing an effective date, and further purposes.
Great. Anthea, would you come up and remind everyone what this is?
Are we back to doing this again?
No, I just
first
wanted,
read
but
and
it's a
second?
first reading. I just wanted to explain, what we're
But it's explained in all the documents. I thought we were doing first reads where we approve them unless we had any questions.
if you wouldn't mind, just briefly, because it was an important issue to a lot of people.
Okay.
So this is an LDR amendment. As you know, we've had a lot of complaints from our residents that they're a little bit surprised by getting parking tickets in private lots, and they kind of are mistaking them for city lots. And so this ordinance puts visual standards in place and requires, consistent with state statutes, because there's regulations that the state has also passed to make sure that contact is available. The part that we wanted to add was making sure that, I'm going to just go very quickly, that we were posting it not a city lot at the front, and it's designed so that the existing signage could be retrofitted as well, and clearly identifying the rates so that people are not getting surprised when they visit the city or when they come downtown.
Thank you very much.
I will say thank you, the limiting the sign pollution, because now we're seeing in the private lots, one sign per parking space, which is starting to get ugly. Thank you.
So we need a motion to approve.
Motion to approve ordinance number 03-25.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Done. Comments and inquiries, we're going to be done.
So fast.
Yeah, I mean, see, we could have started at 6. Anyway, Mr. City Manager.
Yes, 2 brief items. First of all, as the City of Delray Beach is preparing for the upcoming Delray Beach Open tennis tournament for this year, there is an obligation that temporary spaces is provided, and that's been the case every year. And this is an annual transaction of about $15,000. However, because it's been a cumulative transaction with this same company, Vote Out Rigid Temporary Spaces is what we're looking to conduct business with. Force is the name of the organization. We will go ahead and proceed in that regard. However, because of the cumulative amount over the past few years, we will be making this a consent agenda item for the February 4th meeting. So my interest is to advise you all in that regard in advance, so that we can honor those commitments as noted.
Could you go back? I'm sorry, I don't think I understood. You're saying the first line of your...
We work with an organization called Fort Services,
Okay.
FORTS, to provide temporary space, usually for ancillary offices, to accompany the Delray Beach tennis tournament.
Where are those spaces?
They would be adjacent to the courts themselves.
Okay.
In that general vicinity. So it's about a $15,000 commitment that
From who's committed to that 15,000?
the City of Delray Beach. And it
We're
has
paying
been over
for
the
that?
last few years. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So normally that would be an administrative function, but because we've done
Is that
business
in
over
our
the last few
contract?
years.
Miss City Attorney?
There he is. So my understanding was that we started paying for this back in 2020.
Is it in our contract, though, is the question?
Because I did not see it in the contract.
I don't
This
think it
additional
is either.
space, I don't see.
Okay, we don't want to pay for that if it's not in the contract.
I was going to get to that. That's why.
Oh, I'm sorry,
That's
I'm
all
ahead of you.
Uh,
Sorry, Sam. I hate we keep on
No
doing
worries,
this to you.
No worries. First and foremost, good evening. Sam Meetop, Parks and Recreation Director. We started doing this back in, I think it was even 2019, but if not 20. What happened is, over the years, our office, so it was next door at the community center, had continued to grow from more and more staffing, and it made it very, very hard for us to commit to the office space that we once used to turn over to the tennis center or to the tennis tournament during their event. So the offices that were committed to them prior, it was harder and harder to get all of our staff out of the building for that time frame. So we went to a fort system, which is, they're actually what you see out here right at the front with the credential building. It's the little unfoldable office spaces, because it offset the spaces that we had priorly committed through the event, which was office space in the center. For example, prior to that time frame, we never had a cemetery manager, so we had to find an office in our building for
Could
cemetery
I interrupt?
manager.
You're talking those little buildings that they used to give out the credentials and the
Yes.
other one where the volunteers collect?
Correct.
But we're not obligated to do that. We did that as a courtesy for some reason.
We're obligated in the contract for office spaces and
That's
amount
not
of
really
room in the
office. That's a stand that they give out credentials, and that's their volunteer meeting space.
So, again, there's a number of offices within the community center that we turn over for their officials, staffing, and we couldn't do that any longer back then. So we went to the Ford system to offset the loss of office spaces that we had in the community center that used to be provided to the tournament.
Do we have to do this, city attorney, because we've done this in the past? If we created a precedent doing something that's not in our contract, no offense, and allowed it, and now we've done it for so many years that we've created a precedent where we're going to have a problem? Because I don't see why the residents should be shelling out an additional $15,000. I have a box seat I pay for at that tournament. I'm the biggest fan of that tournament and have been going there since 1999. But from my perspective, the residents are paying a lot for this. The parking goes to the tournament. All this extra stuff goes to the tournament. And, I don't know. I understand what you're saying completely, but if we're not obligated to do it, I don't know that we should be doing it.
Sorry.
No.
If I may, my only thought would be, and I don't know where this goes, but with the time frame, if we want to change that policy or that perspective and that the way we operate, maybe next year, because it's so tight, but that's again up to all of you.
So we paid this last year, that this was in our budget last year?
It was, as far as the Department of Parks and Recreation coordinating it. This has been the case since at least 2020. So 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, and 2024.
Are there any other expenses that we aren't aware of that are not contractually obligated by the residents that we are expending for this tournament?
Over the years, we've done a report, and it grows every year because the costs keep going up. But they're what we call in-kind services that are above and beyond just our staffing. There's a lot of stuff that's really cooked into that contract. There's a lot in there that we provide.
The contract, I will say that, I was going to raise this issue, but there's a lot of vagueness in the contract. And the interpretations seem to always go in favor of the tennis operation that's already taking all our parking revenues and other revenues. But we supply the police and do everything else to make it a clean event for them. I would certainly like to know what those other in-kind things that we are. I would like to know the full, what we are providing outside the four corners, because, as I said, most of this stuff is very vague, and we supply office space. But,
security.
I don't know what you mean by office space. How many offices? Because it seems to be doing, they seem to be performing activities outside of just running the tournament in those offices, which really is their obligation. So I would like to kind of know what we are.
You make a great point.
Totally
there's
spending.
Even, it says we should provide payphones. So that's an old contract, and there's some stuff in there that doesn't apply anymore.
May I go back to the city attorney for a moment? I'm sorry, Sam.
No, of course.
Do you feel, what is your position legally on this? Have we set a precedent by doing this year after year or not? Because, look, I don't feel like we're going to be in litigation anyway, because there's no way they want to bring this contract
I would say the
back in
contracts get
litigation.
reinterpreted all the time.
I understand.
It's not in the
I'm
contract.
I'm asking
Just
our
like doing
city
the
attorney if we should shell out the 15 this year and wait until next year or not, because I can't ask you for your position. I'm asking you legally. We've been through, this contract was, in litigation, and then the commission gave the applicant what he wanted, and the litigation did not proceed, and we're here with this contract as it stands. Have we set a precedent, do you think, or no? Do you need a day to think about that?
It's a
I'm
legal
asking
question.
you.
I'm asking the mayor if I can answer.
Thanks.
No, have they set a precedent by doing this? Yes, but are we contractually obligated? No. And I agree with what the mayor said. The contract is very vague, and sometimes, whoever it is has made interpretations in favor, and these costs keep increasing.
Right.
I know there was an issue today with the parking costs. and how that's being interpreted. So, no, I don't. I think if this started in 2020, I didn't get a lot of information. I understood it to be maybe because of COVID and spacing requirement. Maybe that's why we had to do this. But to continue to do this year after year, they get office space in the community center, and so, at the end of the day, everything has been interpreted against the city. And if this commission wants to set a rule that whatever the contract says is all that they can get, and staff has to carry out that directive.
Well, my view is, as I said, I think it's time that the contract get interpreted in favor of the city.
So can I ask if we are contractually obligated to provide office space that we can no longer provide, then what happens if we pull the funding on what we're doing to offer in kind as a substitute for that? I mean, are we then in breach of the contract as we're not providing that space? I mean, that's the part I'm trying to understand.
I don't
here.
think the volunteers were going in the building and using an office. I'm sorry. I'll respectfully disagree with that statement.
I'm going off what Sam's saying. That
Well,
it's useful.
but volunteers, it's where they're collecting and having snacks.
That's why I'm saying there's a lot of
And the
activities
other
going on
stand is
currently
for
in the four
us to pick up our passes and for the players to pick up their passes.
So, yeah, I agree. I think we need to look at this. I mean, it's up to us all whether or not we're going to enforce it this year or not.
Sam, real world, if we choose to enforce this year, what's the practicality of what's going to happen given the short time frame that we have?
The real implication would be, first, just an overall change in the layout of in the footprint of the event and where these things are housed, and trying to move a little bit more of my staff out of the offices during that time frame.
Okay.
Or
Or they-
Match Point can pay
or
for
they
it.
Pay for the $15,000 for the 2 temporary booths.
Okay, but there won't be any huge disruption. It's not going to cause problems. I mean,
does it stop the event? No. Does it cause
Right.
disruption and reallocation of everything? Yes.
Well, I'm not saying they couldn't
Yeah.
have the thing, but they can pay for it instead of us
Right,
paying for
exactly.
It feels, I don't know.
it. It's a $15,000-$20,000 item. I understand it's not big.
I'm on board with analyzing this to see if we can change how we're doing this long term, but I think it's in bad faith if we wait until a month before and they have no choice but to fork over the money to pay for it because it could screw up the entire event. I think we're.
It's not going to screw up the event. It's two.
No,
they're
it won't
two
because
little
they'll
temporary
fork
trailers.
over the money, but we're forcing
Right.
their hand then. That's not a good way to start a negotiation. It's just
I
not.
thought-
It's in bad faith.
All I'm saying is the people that I spoke to from the way back when I first got involved in this contract, the number of people using the offices has expanded. And it seems that they are, giving space to people to use, which are really outside the core event. I mean, yes, they're volunteers, but there's not really, the purpose of providing them office space was for them really just to run the tournament. And it seems to have grown beyond that. And that is my point. And if they're
It seems
gonna
like a
grow beyond it-
complicated, nuanced conversation.
I took the same position as with the bathrooms, that they wanted the city to pay the $70,000. Well, bathrooms that are never used by the general public and only going to benefit the players, seem to me that comes out of the tennis budget, not the city's budget. So
Should we take a vote, Mayor? What do you want to vote?
Well, I mean, it's not really an action item, but I mean, we
Yeah,
have to
it's
do
an
something. So
action
what are we
item,
going to
isn't
do?
it?
What are we going to? So, what do you want to do?
I'm saying no.
I'm in favor of the no as well. So.
I don't think we have nearly enough context to make this decision, and I think doing this right before the event,
more
like
notice
less than
they
a
get,
month
the better.
before the event, is really inconsiderate, frankly, to both our staff and to this organization we've had a partnership with for a long time. I'm on board with analyzing this and having a real conversation about it, but this feels performative. This is not how we should be doing this, in my opinion.
Point taken. Thank you.
Probably 2 weeks before the tournament.
I'm saying no. Do you guys want to speak?
I think it's a little short. I mean, 2 weeks before the tournament to say no, but I'm in agreement that they should be paying it. But we're 2 weeks before. That's.
I feel the
To
same
pass
way.
the
I think
bill
we're
on
I
to
think we're
somebody
awfully
in 2
close.
weeks.
I mean, I do think, Lynn, we need to review the contract and with a fine tooth comb and see what's there, because it sounds like, Julie, you have some experience that the contract isn't where you would like it to be. So
We can't change the contract,
Well,
so that's
we have
not
three.
the
I'm going to
discussion.
move this along. We have three that say okay, but all who are also saying okay said this needs to be reviewed. So I don't think that the tennis tournament should anticipate next year this accommodation being made. And it's only being done because you brought it up not you, I'm not blaming, I'm not finding fault, but it was only brought up 2 weeks before the starting of the event. And without having to get into them reconfiguring, which is really what was triggered it for me, reconfiguring the thing, I just think that next year, and you're going to be providing us long before that, all of the other things outside the scope of the contract that we have
Parking,
been
et
paying
cetera.
for,
Yeah.
that we have to, seriously, dollars are going to be very important to this town, going, so I want to know all the money that we're spending that where the interpretation could have gone the other way, e.g. in favor of the city. So, okay, we're all on agreement on this? Okay.
Thank you,
Very well.
Sam.
Thank you.
So thank you. Likewise, a consent agenda item will be brought before you via the February 4th City Commission meeting to reflect that ability for ancillary office space, as had been the case going back to the year 2020, if not before.
Thank you.
The remaining item I wish to highlight briefly is the fact that the 2025 winter class season over at the Creative Arts School has been initiated as of last week. So
You're doing a great job, Gina.
you have copies of the brochures that break down the 6 categories: painting, drawing, writing, mixed media and collage, acting and dancing, and photography. So we've expanded our footprint to that effect. And again, this was initiated just last week, so a little bit less than a week ago, in fact, beginning really Wednesday, and this will take us until the end of February. So we look forward to the continued momentum and progress being made to showcase our capabilities as outlined.
I will say it was a great idea by the commission to undertake this, but you've done a great job.
I'll yield at this time.
Okay. Really?
Woo!
No, that's great.
The last time I saw you, this is an aside. The last time I saw him, he had this. He looked like this ripper kind of this long blade on the top. And he's walking down next to by the
Dada. Next to Dada.
He's walking over by Dada's and saying, "Who?" He looked like the Grim Reaper, over there. And then I saw him cutting down things, and I said, "Okay, well, he's got a purpose after all." So
Yeah, don't call 911.
really. So anyway, city attorney.
I have nothing.
Oh.
Okay, city commission. Mr. Long, would you like to go first?
Yeah, I just got a couple quick things. First, I wanted to say I really appreciate Mr. Knight's comments earlier, and I think they're really spot on in terms of our first responders, our teachers, and our service industry workers really no longer be able to afford to live in Delray Beach. That is a reality, and it's not super sustainable. And I think that's happening with a lot of places in Florida, and that the state has offered we'll call it an inelegant solution to the problem that doesn't really fit in Delray Beach. But the reality is they're not going to overturn Live Local. Like, we're stuck with it. And so, taking in mind what the points Mr. Knight brought up, which, I think we should, maybe whenever we craft our letter to them or whatever we're doing, maybe instead of saying we're opposed to this, because that doesn't really help, it's more like, how do we make what version of this would fit for us? Because these bills go through iteration after iteration after iteration. It will change over the years. Maybe we can have a more nuanced approach to what version of this helps address our affordable housing, workforce housing problems in Delray Beach without, robbing us of our industrial space, without forcing us to accept height limits in areas that don't work here. I'm just throwing that out there. Maybe we keep that in mind when we're crafting our letter. But my other comment was just a quick update I wanted to offer on the All-American City application that we're doing. Just had our 3rd meeting today, and Ms. Bones is doing a really great job at leading those meetings. I wanted to give her a shout out. I'll just kind of read through this real quick. Bear with me, because we've covered a lot of ground here. But the application's due soon. It's due at the end of February, so we don't have a ton of time. But we've covered a lot of ground. So we are partnering with various institutions and nonprofits that leverage opportunities for environmental resiliency and equity. That's the theme of the application this year, as you guys know. These partners include the Institute for Regional Conservation, Community Greening, School District, Community Redevelopment Agency, Sandway, the Children's Garden, Foundation for Environmental Education, which does the Blue Flag Award. Those are some of the ones that we're really focusing on. We had the first meeting was on December 20th, where application components were reviewed. We had another meeting on the 9th where we discussed the Delray Beach story. We looked through applications from several other cities, one from Mesa, Arizona that was a recent previous winner, and one from Roanoke, Virginia. So we went through that and kind of really studied the format of those and how they worked. And it's really based on their stories. It's cool because it's not about why are these cities great. It's about how have they addressed challenges in their cities, And so we also are looking at our previous applications because we've obviously won this 3 times. And so we're really trying to focus on telling the Delray story within the parameters of that theme. And so I'm just kind of going over the cliff notes here because there's a lot. But today we had a meeting that was really centered on addressing those key challenges around environmental sustainability. And we have 3 different components to it. They give you 3 different sections. It's pretty broken out the way that the application is. And so the 3 different categories that we had, or 3 different Delray stories, we called them, were environmental equity and inclusion, which centers around equitable access to environmental resources to mitigate barriers. So we're going to spotlight community greening and IRC and some other organizations under that. Then we had youth eco-consciousness, which is educating the next generation, connecting students to environmental education and workforce opportunities. And we were spotlighting partners like Sandway, the Children's Garden, and the Historic Society. And then the third sort of prong was looking toward the future, policies and strategic partnerships. For the future, that's the city's work to mitigating environmental changes. So we really talked about city policies like the Green Building Ordinance, our Bike Ped Master Plan, the Blue Flag Award, our Climate Action Master Plan, Earth Month, and just climate and culture. So that's kind of where we're at with this right now, but we've made a ton of progress, and we're going to have, I think, 4 or 5 more meetings before the end of February. And we should have a draft. I don't have the dates in front of me, but we have a firm date to have the first draft, which is going to be in early February, and we'll start working on that.
Thank you very much for the report.
Yep.
No pressure, but we want you to bring home the award.
I'll deliver.
Okay. Commissioner Burns.
Okay, I just wanted to say thank you to Ms. Britt from the United Believers for the comments they made today. And also Ms. Bruton with the recognition with the NAACP first banquet. That was quite something. I think it's already been said about the Martin Luther King breakfast that we attended on yesterday. That was great, and lots of enlightening history added to with the CB Wonder portion. That was news to me as well. I knew it bought a radio station, but I didn't know about the rally and the $1 million investment to get people to come. It ended up as 2, absolutely. So that was great. And just wanted to thank Mr. Yontis for attending my Burning Conversation and providing our community meeting with the accessory dwelling unit information. It was very well received by the community, and we look forward to another meeting. So that is it. Thank you.
Commissioner
Mr.
Gasol.
Marker, go. No.
Well, I'm bouncing around because everybody said I'm always going in the same order. That's why I'm moving everyone around.
Okay, I'd like to address Mr. Knight as well, because I agree with what you're saying, although as a home rule state, I don't like when regulations are imposed upon us. But my bigger issue is the 80 to 120, because while you could argue maybe that helps, and it's not going to help entry-level firefighters, it's not going to help entry-level police, that is really still a price that's kind of out of reach. And it certainly doesn't help the people working at Publix or the people who make the least amount of money and tend to have to spend the most traveling to and from work, because that's who we need to also be looking to accommodate. So when you talk about, Mr. Long, could we send a letter that more asks, can this accommodate us? I would argue that it needs to have different levels. It's a lot of workforce housing. It's a lot of affordable housing in that it's 40% of the full project. That's a lot, and that's great. But it should be at different levels so that we can accommodate people who are making, lower income. So I love the idea of putting something together that sort of more, instead of just saying we hate it, get rid of it, expresses concerns about how it can help us and our residents, because that's really the goal. Thank you, Mr. Knight. I also wanted to say congratulations to Assistant Chief Razor, who left us, Jeffrey Razor, and I did not know he was going. So I didn't get the opportunity to thank him for his service to the city of Delray Beach, but I'm sure he'll be missed. I also wanted to say we have a new restaurant. There was a ribbon cutting at Square Peg on the corner. You guys good?
No, I hadn't no.
I found out I was
saw him at the
dining
memorial
and
service the other day. He didn't
Yeah.
say anything about it.
I know, he snuck out of here. I don't know. Yes, he did.
got
I left
what?
him a message. He's a chief in Manalapan.
Following in the Larry Schrader's footsteps.
Yeah, it is. It's super exciting for him. Square Peg Restaurant on Atlantic and Military, they had a ribbon cutting at 5 and invited us. I ran over at 4:30. And so anyway, nice pizza place that just opened in Delray. I wanted to thank Danielle Pearson and Danielle Beardsley and all of the Parks and Recs department. Too bad Sam left. Disappointed, but the Christmas Village, once again, was amazing, better than ever. And every single time I went there, and I took my daughter so many times, all I see is our staff there, late at night, working their rear ends off. So I really want to say thank you to the Parks and Rec Department. And obviously, the DDA, Laura Simon's no longer here, doing an amazing job with the free concerts and all the activities. And of course, Gina, we recognize you. I'm so excited about some of those classes. I'm signing my child up, hopefully. I'll have to check if they allow teens, but anyway, thank you. It's very exciting. The progress, I was here at the beginning when all that happened at Old School Square, and just the progress that we've made is amazing, and the residents are thrilled, and I want to thank all of you for your participation. I want to also congratulate my former running mate, Inez Bartholomew, who we ran. When you run a campaign, you're with people, some you really like, some you don't like so much, a lot. And I got to know her very well. We were running against each other. And so I said, I hope you have a future endeavor in Delray. And she started a nonprofit called Changing Lives of Delray. And it's a great nonprofit. It will be a supplement to what we're already doing here with our homeless task force, because her main focus is aligning mentors with people who need help and having them help them through the whole process. And it's created a successful program in Boca, and I hope that she's successful here, and I hope we can help her because she's pretty amazing. Also, Robert's Rules meeting, I wrote to Mr. Moore, I cannot attend on the 4th, and since I know, Mayor, you think I'm the most in need of this class, I feel like we should accommodate me and make it at some point where I can attend.
It's actually set for February 18th.
Oh,
now.
You didn't tell me that. The dates were 21 for
It-
Okay,
it
you
was
guys
just
didn't even
done.
tell me.
We
See, I feel
accommodated.
like you really don't want me there, and you just want me to.
Nothing like that. It's
Sway
February
me.
18th
I
at
wanna be
3:30.
myself.
House, so I expect
Would
you to
you-
be there.
So I have to attend. Okay, and I want to thank you, Mr. Moore. Last meeting, I said to you I wanted an update on code enforcement, and I want to say that I do appreciate what you're doing with the code department in addressing some of the issues of concern and in hiring Johnson Jackson to do an investigation so we can, get to the bottom of this. And I cannot wait to read it, and I thank you for doing that. I will say it took a bit, but I will say a thank you. Okay, after hours meetings. I saw Mr. Moore's schedule the other day, and he had an after-hours meeting with some people from Osceola Park, and I believe, Mayor, you were there. I would just say this personally. Our staff works super hard. They're here so many nights well past their 5 o'clock time, and especially Planning and Zoning Department. They go to the SPRAB meetings, Board of Adjustment meetings, P&Z meetings, our meetings, Historic Board meetings. So as a courtesy to our staff, I said to Mr. Moore, maybe you don't have the staff at these meetings unless they need to be there. Absolutely. And I'm just saying we should be mindful. When I schedule meetings, I try and do it during the day hours. But we should try, if we can schedule those meetings during the day so our staff isn't here any later than they already are. I think that would be thoughtful, and I'm just throwing it out there. The climate action plan, I met with Mr. Edwards on a number of issues, and especially when you're talking about the All-American City. I think the climate action plan is exciting, but I know we have to ask all of our departments to participate, so I'm sorry, because I know it's going to require effort from everybody to get it underway and going and show what our needs are, but I hope that everybody is willing to participate, and if there's anything I can do to that end, I am willing to volunteer my services. Because I'm excited about the climate action plan. A lot of cities have implemented them, but none of them are actually really, once they've implemented them, they're not really following them, and I would like to, lead the way on that. Chief Martin. I reached out to Chief Martin because the fire department personnel policies aren't online, and I asked him to put them up. He said he's modifying them. In light of our last discussion where we discovered the last union contract with the fire department gave oversight of their personnel policies to that department, and they're essentially self-policing. I think those policies need to be online for all the residents to see. I know he's working on modifying them, but I think we should have them somewhere, and I think we should get a copy of them as well. And I would like you to consider what I asked you last week and give us an update at some date certain of what the city can do in the meantime before you negotiate the next contract to make sure that the city taxpayers have oversight of those policies. If you can put some bumpers in place, and I know the chief is in charge of that, and I feel very comfortable with him, but I just don't think that the city should ever be lateraling its oversight of any department to that department. We are obligated to the taxpayers. Go. I thought you wanted to say something.
I thought you were finished. I just wanted to make sure I did not interrupt you.
Oh, no, I've got more, but go ahead if you like. I'm sorry. I have a long one tonight.
Okay, so we're working to offer some updates to that effect. So once we get to a place in which we can offer a presentation to the commission, as noted, we will be accomplishing that. We anticipate the next few weeks, Chief. Yes?
Thank you. I'm sorry, Chief.
For the record, Ron Martin, Fire Rescue Chief. Yes, we are. We're looking at policies from a global perspective right now to increase collaboration and oversight, not only out of my office, but with the city attorney, human resources. So we're evaluating different resources and different plans. The current fire rescue policies have been uploaded to the website. I worked with the communication director, so that task is done, and they are visible and accessible to the public.
Great. Thank you so much. That was so fast.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. Oh, and one other thing, I wanted to say thank you, Chief Martin, because you provided us something that we've never had before, which is that monthly statistics report. We've not had that. That's new to the city of Delray, and I really enjoyed it. And I wanted to ask you something that's worth noting. First of all, the overtime, based on the current calculation, is down for the year, so thank you so much for that. And also, I was just wondering, and I don't know, you won't know this, but maybe we were talking, our CFO was talking about, how we need to generate revenue. I went back and looked, and it looks like our EMS charges for billing were updated in September of 2020. I can't find, when I searched all of our meetings, there's no indication that we've updated since September of 2020 what we charge for EMS services, and that's the transport, the basic life, the advanced life, and the critical care. And right now, I think we're charging less than most of the surrounding areas. I just did a quick overview on the internet, and it looks like we are charging considerably less. Now, I don't think we should, gouge our residents, but I also do think we should be in keeping with what the charges are. And also, if insurance companies are allowing more charges and we're not getting them, that would be unfortunate, and that could be a source of revenue for you. And I could give you the information that I found locally, but if you would, maybe if everyone's in agreement with him looking into that.
Well, we were planning to address that administratively anyway as part of our effort to expand revenue opportunities because, of course, we initiated a market analysis to draw the conclusion that you've just shared.
Oh,
and
fabulous.
therefore, we anticipate recommendations forthcoming,
Okay.
congruent with the upcoming proposed budget process, but quite frankly, even before then.
Right, and some things we do, and I don't know how we don't end up doing it on a like every 3-year basis or what have you, how we randomly decide to update the charges, but then somehow don't do it in 2 or 3 years. So maybe we can try and figure out a system so we are not doing what we did with the water, which is realizing we haven't upped the fee in 16 years and then we're, really increasing. Thank you so much. And again, thank you for that report and for the overtime being down. Okay, last time we talked about our employees driving without a license, and it's been a bit of time, and I don't think that's an internal review, and we should have it. I would like that information from you. More has come to light through the Sun Sentinel, and it's upsetting, and I think we need to know what is going on and steps taken, and I appreciate the steps have been taken, but I think the residents deserve to know what's going on, and I would like to know what's going on.
Yes, ma'am. And if I may, I'd like to offer a footnote because I actually heard from a couple of y'all earlier today about a question relative to the experiences of December 28th, some question about individuals not having the licenses at the time. They actually did. That's
They
actually
had it
been
at the time.
confirmed.
That wasn't
so that's
the
clear.
question. Right.
However, we will be updating all involved and all concerned
Right.
soon.
Because the Sun Sentinel did an article that reflected a review of an individual in 2009, and there was a reference in the 2009 review to that person needing to make sure that their driving license was in order. And if you go online and look at the county website, in 2009, that person did not have a driver's license, and that person is the same person from recently. So that would have been twice, if that's accurate, that the same person did not have a driver's license working for us.
Have we not been advised to not talk about this by our council?
So this is tangentially related to the Brightline accident, but I would just
It's a
ask that
separate,
we.
okay, I'm just saying, I think we should have that information to know that
Right
everything is
now,
okay here.
It's the subject of some administrative investigation, so.
How long does the administrative investigation typically take? I thought those were like a 5-day
Well, we
thing.
want it done right, not fast. So
Okay.
she's working on it. You know, we have outside counsel, but at this point, I don't think it's prudent to discuss.
Well,
it
it's in the
further.
newspapers, so it's public.
I understand, but this is a commission, the policymakers of the city, and so you should not have your opinions tainted or
It's
swayed
not- right.
until you have all the information, and we
I
don't have all
agree.
the information yet.
Right. It's just reading it publicly and not getting it from
I
the
can tell
city
you with
is
certainty
challenging
that
for
nobody
me.
was driving the fire truck on the day of the Brightline
Had a
accident with
license.
suspended
I have
license.
no-
Nobody. So
I totally understand
and
that.
I can also tell you that, and you know, I'm just gonna leave it at that.
You can leave it
So,
at that.
I think we need to be mindful that there are administrative investigations that are
No,
ongoing.
I
and that
listen,
we
there's
should-
litigation going on, and I'm a less is more kind of
We're
person
reading
when
it in the
litigation is
paper,
going on,
and the
so.
residents are reading in the paper, and I would like
I
that.
can't account for what
We
newspaper
can't,
people
we
write.
can't control that, but we
They're
can
not
control
juries.
what the policymakers say about it.
Right. Okay. My next item is I've been writing to Mr. Moore to try and summarize what the costs of this are, and your responses are typically the insurance is covering it, but you know, we got. Our insurance kicks in at $300,000, and I think I asked the city attorney, is there a cap on that insurance? Do we know?
I don't understand.
A cap? Does the insurance pay up to an amount and stop?
I don't know.
Okay, so that, I would be curious if that's the case.
So again,
Again, we don't
related
talk
to the
about, you
litigation.
don't talk about coverages and things such as that.
Insurance
But we don't have coverage on our truck. The re-
Insurance, yes, we do.
Yes, we do.
have coverage.
Okay, we have minimal
Insurance-
coverage.
Insurance coverage is something that's public information. If somebody wanted
Right.
to do a record to request,
Exactly,
they're
that's
welcome
why
to
we
do
can
that.
talk about
but
it.
Again, you know, this is going to be the subject. The city's insurance coverage is going to be something that litigants are going to be interested in. And the policymakers at this point in time, we're getting claims on this accident. I would really advise you not to discuss.
Okay,
this.
but is the truck is a separate issue. It's our truck and it's our
The truck is
claim.
going to be involved in the that's all.
Okay, I
related
won't
to the
say another
litigation.
word, but I hope it's fully covered. And then I would say another thing that came up is the Citron Cooperman, in looking at your calendar, you met with Citron Cooperman. This is something I brought to Mr. Moore's attention. Citron Cooperman is doing a report for us, an audit on the Highland Beach interlocal agreement. And that's because the Auditor General in 2023 produced a report with a lot of findings that were not necessarily amazing for our city. And so
Can I
had
clarify that, Mayor?
Please
yeah.
do, 'cause I was
So
going to.
they're doing an audit.
Right.
Because the auditor did have some findings that
Right.
were in favor of the city.
Right.
And in order, if the city was interested in pursuing those funds on behalf
Right.
of our taxpayers,
Yes.
we would have to go to mediation, and we needed an auditor to complete the full audit.
Right,
That's
I
why
was-
Citron Cooperman's involved.
Yes, I'm
But
sorry, I was
I'm
gonna
just
say
gonna
that.
give another caveat on this one. Their findings are not complete.
Right, no,
they're-
I'm not referencing their findings, but when the Auditor General report came in, it had some serious findings. I reached out to Mr. Moore to ask, had we done anything policy, procedure, or otherwise in light of that report, and we have not. One of the things that the city attorney and I had talked about, and we talked about this 3 years ago, is the possibility of having the billing for the fire department and the budgeting for the fire department and the police department put within our finance department. We talked about this 3 years ago. It never happened, but in light of this discussion we were having today, it seems appropriate to be considering that because.
And we will, and we are. That is underway, and I think I've shared that with a couple of you all in individual discussions, and that is part of the process moving forward. So, quite frankly, with the recent arrival of Chief Financial Officer Henry Dakowitz, that is part of the nexus in which we are going forward. So, a new mix of people helping us to implement that directive, and quite frankly, to support the city attorney. The interest is to get squared away in terms of the audit process so that we can separate ourselves accordingly. So,
what's
yes
a time
and yes.
frame what's a reasonable time frame for that?
So I hope to offer an update in the next couple weeks because we do have a follow-up visit with Citron Cooperman to.
No, I mean in terms of the Citron Cooperman aside, because I wasn't referencing the report except to say that there were findings and in the aftermath of the findings from the Auditor General, it would seem that we needed to review our policies and procedures. But we've according to your response, we haven't done that because we're awaiting this other additional report. Nonetheless, I do think you're in a great opportunity right now to start making some policy and procedure changings throughout your departments in the city to improve what we're doing. This tragedy could be looked at as something that really is eye-opening to all of us to see that we need to move forward differently and we need to go department through department and try and create better policies and procedures for our residents.
Looking forward to it, and we will be providing updates beginning in the coming weeks.
Okay, thank you. I
Thank
think
you.
that's it. I think. Where did we go? Where is Robert? What day is Robert's Rules?
That will take place
sorry.
Tuesday, February 18, 2025.
I'll send you a reminder.
And
But-
another book.
but
I've already
wait.
read 2 of them. I'm on this.
Vice Mayor?
Yes.
That will take place between 3:30 and 5 o'clock, immediately before the 5 o'clock regular meeting.
3:30. That's the problem.
Mr. Marker.
My turn? I'll be super duper quick. Jim Knight, I wanted to address your comment on affordable housing. I think you were spot on. I've had a lot of meetings recently with the restaurant industry in Delray, and they're really expressing frustration that their servers and their cooks are living hours away from Delray Beach, and it's causing all kinds of problems with them, and they're pleading for help. So Rob, I agree with what you said. I think we should work with the League of Cities because I think that's going to be more powerful than a lone voice. But Tom, I also agree with what you said, that our approach should be multi-pronged. But this is a really important topic, and I think we ought to really put some energy behind it. I think it's really important. And that's it.
A couple of things and some points that were made out today. I do think we're looking at grants. I was fine until now, of course. When we look at grants, we should have a consolidated view. Somebody's getting one from this, one from this, one from. We ought to know what the total money they're getting. This is terrible. I'm going to stop. I love your burning conversations. Wish I could have gone. I watched the tape. Excellent. I'm done. Can't talk. I'm doing everyone a favor. I don't know. I swallowed the water down my throat. Anything else?
That's it.
We're adjourned.
Good night, ladies and gentlemen.
I didn't cough the whole night.